Welcome to God's Vibes, the faith gym for faith walkers who are done playing small and ready to live fully led. I'm Juliana Page, apostolic voice, prophetic coach, and founder of Courage Co. And this space is where you train in truth, strengthen your spirit, and walk in your kingdom identity. If you're ready to grow in boldness, break through self-doubt, and become who God says you are, this is for you. Let's dive in. You're not just a woman of faith. You're a kingdom daughter. You were born to walk in power, hear from heaven, and live fully aligned with your identity in Christ. But let's be real, it's hard to do that alone. That's why I created the Kingdom Daughters Mentorship, a space for women who are ready to go deeper, be discipled, and grow in confidence and clarity. Being a daughter of Christ is truly our most important role. This isn't surface level encouragement, it's spirit-led mentorship, prophetic activation, and biblical empowerment in community. If you've been waiting for something to shift, it's you, and this is your sign. Add your name to the Kingdom Daughters waitlist on the link in the show notes. To join us for all of the things, go to www.courageco.org and plug in today. You're not called to fit in, you're called to rise. What's good, faith walkers? Welcome back to the God's Vibes podcast. I just have to let you in on something. I am supposed to be on the road. However, this message has hijacked that. I'm supposed to be on the way to a conference, not even packed yet, and here we are. But it is so much more important to submit to what the Spirit is doing and what He's asking and requiring, and let Him work out the details, and it'll all just fall into place. So for whomever this message is for, let this just be a reminder that God can arrest heaven and earth to get a message out to you. Okay, that's how important it is. So I just want to encourage everyone here, whether you are new or if you've been running with us for a minute, take a second and subscribe to the podcast. That is one of the most generous ways, quite honestly, that you can care for what's happening here, for all of the effort, for all of the sacrifice, for all of the teaching, for everything that's been poured out for years, frankly, to get to this number of episodes. You just subscribing to the podcast helps other people find it. And that's a really big deal, because this has found you. And that was a big deal at one time for you too. Also, when you rate it 5 stars and leave a review, that inspires so many people. It helps them see from your voice what is happening here. And that's just such a blessing. And both of those things cost nothing. They are free, and it takes just a few minutes to do. So I would be so honored. Thank you in advance for doing that. If you could also share the podcast and share links and episodes with people, you can literally just, there's dots on the episode. You can post about it. You can share it through a direct message or a text to somebody. You can email it to them. Hey, I've been listening to this episode. It's about this and this and this. It reminds me of our conversation the other day. I think it'll bless you. It's just so amazing what happens when you just take those few steps. You have no idea. So just thank you. You're blessed to be a blessing. And if this has been blessing you in any kind of way, that is absolutely something that you can do. Okay. Let's see. We've got a couple of things too coming up this week that I genuinely do not want you to miss out on. We are going to do the Own Your Voice Challenge. It's July 21st, 22nd, 23rd. It's 6 p.m. Central Time every single day. It will be live teaching. And we have not been doing this. For the OGs, we were doing, in the beginning, we were doing a challenge, a 3-day challenge and a master class every other week. That was a full-time job, y'all, in addition to everything that I was doing, and they were just free. So we've had to pivot quite a bit from doing that, because it is quite literally a full-time job when you think about everything that goes into that. So I'm sharing this because we normally don't do this, but we are doing a 3-day challenge called Own Your Voice, and I'm going to share a little bit today about why that message is so important, and I'm going to share more of the testimony that I share here over there. So you're not going to want to miss this. Do everything in your power to join us live, because it's very powerful when you are here and what the Holy Spirit does in these sessions. And then we also have our Kingdom Builders Night on Monday, the 28th at 6 p.m. So that's a beautiful opportunity. If you are a part of Courage Co, if you want to be, we are for the kingdom builders. We are not casual, cool content. We are not crumb feeding. We are here for the milk, not the milk people, the solid food people, okay? We are here for the harvesters, the laborers. Those are the ones that are out in the arena taking hits every day. They're the ones that need encouragement. They're the ones that need training. Those are the ones that need skills, accountability, help, support. And we are a premier faith-based training hub for those people. Okay? So if you do just want to, be casual in your faith, we are not the space for that, just for clarity. But if you do want to grow and mature and be very trustworthy in your assignments, that's truly who we're here for. So you're invited to come run with us. You can plug into Courage Co, www.courageco.org. For those of you that are a part of the mission, we have these Kingdom Builder nights every month where we pray, where we bring in prophetic encouragement, where we are also going to bring in our prophetic team and ministers into that time and just bless you. Just bless you. You're also going to be updated on the vision and what's happening in Courage Co and some upcoming things that you get to be a part of. So it's really good. You can just plug into that. Literally go to courageco.org. Once you just support us in any kind of way, if you are on the monthly subscription to be a part of Courage Co, you will just automatically get added to that space. Okay? So that's coming up. And then, dun, da, 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 we need music. We need background music in the future. But we are going to do, and this is so good. This is probably... I don't know. It took my whole life to get to this, but we are launching the Kingdom Daughters Mentorship on August 4th. And I know that the title can't fully contain what this is about, but this is for anybody that's ever struggled with figuring out who you are, not just in the natural, but as you step into the kingdom, or anybody that's, been building something with the Lord, but maybe got lost in the build and doesn't know intimately their most important role with the Lord. And that makes doing anything challenging, because a lot of things we do saying that the Lord's in them, but he's not. So we're building in the name of the Lord, but without the Lord. And that can be a problem. And there's just so many things that start happening when you start maturing in the kingdom. And there's not really a kingdom excellence space. There's not really a space that helps you understand who are you as far as the kingdom is concerned. So we're going to go there. It's going to be identity, purpose, legacy, so much. It's a kingdom excellence program. It will be 12 weeks of live teaching and training. It is all new content. It's a great, I would say, graduation after the God's Vibes Mastermind, but it's also a wonderful place to start. So it's a really beautiful space. It's Holy Spirit Boot Camp. It's going to be so good. So if you are a daughter of the Lord, if you know one, if you have one, I would invite you to do it together, to get in the room and to just grow. Just grow in this space. Also, the fun thing is you get access to the 30 Days of Faith Walking program as well, just by being in there. It's insane. As we do things. It's incredibly generous. So come plug into those things. I will share all of the details in the show notes below. All right? I think I got most everything. If I missed something, the best way you can find out any of the things is in Courage Go. All of the updates are over there. All right, guys, let's dive into this message so I can move into where I need to be next. So I had... oh man, I've just had some really interesting things happening behind the scenes. And I think as a leader, it's so challenging sometimes to be deeply authentic, vulnerable, real, honest, raw, transparent, all of the things, and invite people in and have the discernment of who can be trusted with that and who cannot. Sometimes you get burned. It's just the risk of it all. But there's a lot of warfare and a lot of attacks that leaders go through that nobody would ever know. Quite literally, nobody would ever know. Nobody would ever know. They go through these things. And then what makes that even more challenging is people still expect so much of leaders. They almost expect them to not be human. And then they get so familiar with them too that they forget that they are human. So they just expect you to answer every prayer request, every text message, to constantly be available, to constantly turn things around. And they have no idea what you might be facing and what's going on. And it's very, very challenging. And I don't share that for any sort of sympathy, empathy, any of that. It's for awareness that leaders are a gift. And specifically where we're coming from, leaders are a gift to the body of Christ. And to think anything less of them would be to dishonor the gift and dismiss the blessings that they have imparted into your life, the breakthrough that came forth, the shifts that were made in your life. We need to bless our leaders. We need to bless our leaders. We need to champion them. We need to help them. We need to pray for them. We need to stand in the gap. We need to sow into them. And God will lead us to do that, right? One of the gifts of the Spirit is generosity, meaning God will give you great faith and the ability to be generous, and he'll lead you to sow into people. It's really, really powerful. So I just want to share that. But I have been walking through some interesting things. And one of them was a publishing contract with a traditional publisher. This is something that I've been walking out for over 3 years, and I had just been starting to feel that the Lord was stirring in me that this was not what was originally presented, right? All of the beautifully, divinely orchestrated moments, like the favor, the open doors, the connections, the things that he brought together that could only be God. Suddenly now I'm witnessing through walking this out over a period of years that was to lead me there, to go through a unique process that was different than I had in mind, or that I was moving in faith for and taking a big leap of faith for. And now it was time to speak up. Like, it felt like a Esther 4:14 moment. If you don't speak up, this is about to get real bad. Like, I'm going to protect you from some things that you just don't see. So I'll get into this, but here's what I got to say before I do. Love doesn't always stay. It obeys. Love doesn't always stay. It obeys. And I've had the privilege of being trusted by the Lord to stay and obey when he's asked me to, and also leave well in faith without burning bridges. And that's extremely challenging to do. It takes the Spirit of God. It takes discipline. It takes self-control. It takes prayer. It takes fasting. It takes warring in the Spirit. It takes so much to do this well, and many people do not. Okay? But there is a way to do it well, and that's my intention. That's what I want to convey today. So leaving isn't always failure, and sometimes we think that it is. Sometimes it's the faith move that activates your next level, and you can miss it if you get into a place where you're not processing it with the Lord. Okay? So God is a sending God. Like, he sends us out, and sometimes obedience does look like staying. That's been true beyond my comfort many times, probably for you guys too. Like, I thought I was going to be in one position for a year, maybe less than a year. And I'm like, oh yeah, sure, I can do that. And like, by the time that time comes to pass, I'll know what's next. Well, God had me there 8 years. I'm like, what in the world? Like, that's insane. So anyway, it took so much more faith to actually stay when I would so much rather leave every single one of those years, right? But other times, obedience looks like leaving. And that's really hard too. I've had to leave relationships. I've had to leave churches. I've had to leave positions and jobs. I've had to leave things where it felt like it would be more favorable to me to stay. It was way more challenging for me to leave, okay? And if we're honest, many of us don't know how to leave, especially in a way that honors God, preserves our peace, and prepares us for the next thing that he's calling us into, okay? So we're going to go through some of these nuances so that you can distinguish maybe where you are, if you're designed to stay or to leave. But as far as this story goes, I was really feeling some things were not okay. I have written 6 books, okay? So I'm not new to writing. I'm not new to getting a vision and a message out into the world either, okay? However, this process was not what I had in mind. I had initially come across this scripture that there was a couple that God had given me to anchor me in, and that he confirmed. And one of them was that God puts the orphan into families. Now, that means a lot in my life story and just for any believer in general. But what I was really looking for, what my heart's desire was, and what I was prayerful about was the next best thing to what I had experienced in grad school. In grad school, something that I absolutely love is that I was in film production. So my favorite position was not the director, because you got to deal with actors all day. Not, some of these other positions that are out there, not producer, because you have to, interface with all of the investors and different things that are happening and all of the elements and keep that together. And they usually seem like the most stressed out humans on the planet. But I loved being the assistant director, because it's like this beautiful mix of interfacing with every single person, making sure that they are, encouraged, built up, strengthened, able to understand what their role is, where they need to be, when they need to be there, how they can flow in their assignments, how it can just literally turn into this masterpiece. And I have to connect with every single person, whether it is the producer, the director, the actors, anybody, the gaffers, the cinematographers. I got to connect with everybody. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it, because it's behind the scenes, which was my jam and my comfort zone. I think so many people have thought that I have been, an actress or, I don't know, a voice artist or something. I'm like, couldn't be further from the truth. Like, I'm the behind the scenes chick. Like, that's who I am. So anyway, I loved it. Absolutely loved it. It was my most favorite thing. And so what I know with some of the bigger things that God has assigned me to and that he's walking me into is that there's a lot of, that in the future. And I've just craved so much that creative team that helps you birth these big babies into the world. Sometimes people birth physical babies. I think I birth businesses, books, programs, spiritual babies. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's just a lot. And so when you have the right team, it changes everything. And I have, for a majority of my life, built and moved forward in a way that was one-sided. And the Lord came for that recently. He came for the fact that I learned that family even was that I, at a very early age, had to learn to be the gap filler, the one that overcompensated, the one that over-delivered, the one that could be counted on, the one that was reliable, the one that was loyal, the one that would say yes, the one that would make it work out, the one that could be trusted, the one that was responsible, the one that could, be counted on. That was me. And the one that would give, the one that would pour out, even when you didn't think you had anything left, the one that would just do that. And I got so used to that just being what happens until I really was struggling. And I really realized this in college, but I didn't realize that this was still how I viewed family, and the Lord came for this. But anyway, I viewed when I couldn't be that person anymore, and I was genuinely struggling, and people had no idea that was a problem. Like, I am self-destructing, basically, and people are clueless. They think that I look healthy. They're happy that I lost all this weight. I'm like, no, that's a sign of not being healthy. It's just, I look like a shell of who I was. Like, I was diminishing, and that's exactly what I felt like on the inside. And it was so scary, and I was so alone. It was really tough because I couldn't be that person anymore. And because I couldn't be that person, I didn't know who I was anymore. So I thought I'd really come for that pattern and dealt with that over time, but it can still, sneakily come up. And so in work environments, even in friendships or in relationships, right, I could still demonstrate that. For example, in work, it's good to over deliver. You're rewarded for that. You're promoted for that. It's good to be so generous and giving, and just bless people. It's good. That's also my nature to do so. And so that can get really confusing. But sometimes you can come to yourself, is how the Bible describes it. Like the prodigal son had to come to himself. You can come to yourself and realize that will be the very thing that destroys you if God favors you right now. Because if you bless that, that's a pattern, that's a foundation that is not built on the Lord. It is one that was built from trauma. It is one that was built from fear. It is one that is not sustainable, and it is one that will not allow you to fulfill the good plans and purposes that God has in your life, because it is not his design, and that's not how he describes family. So for example, church family is a church family, but it's not your family, and that shouldn't be confused, right? Or your work is not a marriage. So it's not, a covenant, if you will. It's not a marriage, okay? So sometimes we've got toxic empathy, or we are loyal to a fault, and these things can really get us in trouble. And so most recently, God was coming for me for that. He was coming for the friendships that were just one-sided. It's okay for people to learn from you, to glean from you, to have you encourage them all the time. But if you need something, they bail. God came for that. He came for one-sided business interactions. I've had to confront some people that were doing work for quote unquote more important people. And I sensed it in the spirit and confronted that a deliverable hadn't been made for over a month, and it caused problems, and wanted to check in basically on their capacity. But it was only until I confronted that they were clear that, yeah, this is not right. So I had to confront different business interactions that were one-sided as well. It still required me to do all the work, all the following up, all the initiating. And when you hire somebody, you expect them to take some things off your plate, not to double your workload, right? So anyway, God was coming for this one-sided relationship and helping me see that, hey, like, this is what you thought family was, because this was family as you knew it. Family as you knew it was being loyal to a fault, having toxic empathy, being codependent, people-pleasing, over-delivering constantly, being the clutch person. That has been family, and I'm here to show you that that's not the creative family that I have for you, and not the family that you desire. And I'm giving you permission to release that faulty foundation and trust me to fully back you and to fully support you and lead you into the fulfillment of not the counterfeit version of that, but the real version of that. I'm like, Lord, what does one do with that? Like, it was a lot. So anyway, that was happening, and I was led to courageously fast, pray, make sure I was really hearing the Lord, and reach out to the CEO of this traditional publishing company and request either an amendment to our contract or to graciously release it back to me. So, again, this is after, manuscript is written and we are in the middle of launching, and we've been authorized to go in so many things. And I'm sitting with the Lord, greatly grieved, because if you don't grieve properly, you won't leave properly, okay? And then you won't be able to advance properly either. So I was deeply grieved. It's not what I had in mind, but the Lord was showing me something that was undeniable. And it was time to release this faulty foundation and this faulty pattern. Not because I hadn't before. There's so many different ways that I've overcome those things over the years, but he was still showing me how it can show up and what it looks like, so that I could discern it quicker and not move in any faulty agreements. And so I recently did a video on the Juliana Page Ministries YouTube channel. That's another great place to go. Totally different messages than what we have here, on Christian politeness versus a kingdom alignment. Christian politeness versus a kingdom alignment. And I'll share more about this, but just for the sake of this story, to keep it brief over here, I started to see that this contract was grossly unfavorable towards the author. That this company was about vanity publishing and vanity in general, and not about genuinely supporting the author, requiring the author to take on the full operational and financial burden of birthing a book and getting it into the world, in addition to everything else that the Lord has given to build, that just would not work. It just would not work. And this entire process had been really, really unfair. I had written the book 5 times. I had to correct their cover design because it grossly missed the mark. I hadn't had an update on a manuscript that had to be submitted last minute in December, and there was no updates for 7 months, no updates. It just was not helpful. It was not collaborative. It was not supportive, and it was deeply disappointing. And it even had felt better publishing the way I'd published previously. So I was sitting with all of that, and I was sitting with the Lord, and I'm like, Lord, my heart is to obey you. This is not my book. This is your message. This is your mandate. This is your mission. I believe that this has all been divinely orchestrated, and it was for a process that I had no idea would evolve the way it did, but I knew that it was necessary, and I knew it was the Lord, and I knew that it was for this moment. And so I'm like, Lord, I just need help doing this, reaching out. I need help for all of it. And so he helped me craft the email, which took days and hours. He helped me through much prayer and fasting to have a conversation with the CEO, and things that I was praying for was that it would be like the conversation we had in the beginning, where there's this beautiful rapport. We had really great rapport. That would still be there. There would be, the candid conversation, the real conversation, the honor, and a gracious release. Because I really just felt, if this is not the team, even if they amended the contract to what I was led to ask for, it wouldn't feel like the team. And I need the team to bring this message into the world. So anyway, I was preparing for the conversation, and I had been in my word, and I thought, you know what, I'll just meditate on my word a little bit more. And he brought me right back to that same verse, that God puts orphans in families. And I was like, Lord, what do you mean? This is crazy. But he was showing me, my promise still stands. My promise still stands. My promise still stands. How you're getting there is different. My promise still stands. Though this might not be the creative family that you were believing for, and now you intimately see and know that, you won't be able to miss the one I've been building this whole time, and you're ready for them now. That was the subtext to that text from the Lord. And so then I started the meeting from that place and was like, whoa. But that was so powerful because the Lord also knew that I was going to be challenged quite a bit to submit to, negotiations that were presented in different things. And I just held my tongue. I was praying that the Lord would keep a guard over my mouth, that I would only say what's necessary, nothing more, nothing less. And that, I wouldn't defend myself. I wouldn't get into the emotion of anything. I would just stand for what the Lord is telling me to stand for. And he honored my request. One of the things that I was praying about, I was like, Lord, I just can't take another disappointment. My heart just can't take it today. I can't take the disappointment, but I don't know how to pray through that right now. And so he led me to a scripture that said, make me to rejoice because I lift myself up to you. And I'm like, Lord. So that was the prayer. Make me to rejoice because I lift myself up to you. And so he did that. He did that in the sense that there was the relief in honoring him. There was the pride in honoring what the Lord was telling me to do, and being courageous enough to show up and see that all the way through. There was the gratitude that I was able to honor and bless in the midst of doing that when I was dishonored. So it was just the Lord. It was really, really beautiful. And then I had to continue beyond the conversation to keep doing that. Even in terminating the contract, it was, lazy, and even what was shared in the contract was just thrown in there. So I still had to advocate and say, this doesn't reflect the process or what was discussed, it would be more fair to say this. And so they even had to amend the termination letter with my feedback. And it was just such an interesting thing, but it confirmed that I was making the right decision. So hopefully this story is helpful. Now, what was profound in part of this process, and there's just so much more to share. So whenever you are in the mastermind, SDS, any of our programs, you kind of get insider information, but this is enough for here. But what was really profound about this process was that I still had to do it by faith. I still had to trust that God fully backs and supports his girl. He backs her all the way up, even without evidence, or knowing what that immediate next step will be, that this is still his message and he knows exactly how to move it from here as if no time was lost, right? He knows how to give you double for your trouble, all of that. I had to move in what he says is true, not in what I was thinking, what I was feeling, or what my experience was. And I feel like somebody needs to hear that today, okay? So context for how this message is coming forth and maybe how it will continue to evolve. How do you know God is asking you to leave somewhere? Okay. And what are some signs of a holy release? Because something that God has been saying over my life is that you've got to release some things. And he's given me a holy list of things. You have to release some things so that I can release exactly what I want to release to you. As long as you hold on to them, as long as you try to build them, as long as you try to sustain them or maintain them or keep building what I told you to build in a previous season, but not this one, I can't release what I want to release to you. So you need to release some things so I can release some things to you. And I'm like, okay, Lord. And some of you guys know we are in our summer pivot. So there's so many pivoting moves that are happening here. Okay, but what are some signs of a holy release? Number one, the grace lifts. The grace lifts. Okay, so something that I was feeling was not excitement, enthusiasm, joy, expectation, hope, vision, clarity, momentum, like none of that. I was feeling like the wind got knocked out of me. I was feeling restricted. I was feeling oppressed. I was feeling discouraged. There was constant disappointment and discouragement throughout this process, and everything was on me to figure out and to adapt to. And then there was, shifting timelines and so much that was just vague, that was very, very challenging. And so I just felt suffocated. I felt like my voice was being silenced. I didn't feel seen, valued, appreciated, supported, any of that, fully backed up, nothing. And you're like, isn't that what a traditional publisher is supposed to do? Weird concept. Like you would think that they would support authors, not destroy them, right? That just doesn't make sense. So anyway, I felt the grace lift, okay? Where once it was so clear that this was the yes and move forward and trust me, and I'll see you through this thing, I didn't feel that anymore. And that was really hard because I'm like, but Lord, you said, and this has cost so much, and so much has been invested, and so much has been at stake here. And I've been building this in the midst of building so many other things. Like it doesn't make sense, right? But the grace was lifting. So what once was, I can't say that it was flowing easy because it didn't really feel like that. And to me personally, writing doesn't flow easy. So if anybody else can resonate with that, it flows more like obedience than ease for me. And that's hard because you're kind of in a vacuum with the Lord, okay? And I don't know about you, but that doesn't always feel creative and fluid, okay? But what once flowed easily now feels labored and lifeless. Like it's, the blessing maketh rich, but he adds no sorrow to it. There was sorrow, okay? And then you might feel this divine agitation, not just burnout. So this is frustration. Like frustration sometimes is a gift from the Lord, but when we misinterpret it, thinking it that we're not allowed to be frustrated, we really get stuck, okay? Number two, you might be compromising your convictions, okay? And just because something was true before doesn't mean that it can't shift. There could be something that's true now that you've been through a process, now that you have more information, now that you have walked in your integrity, now other things are happening. So we get in trouble when we try to just hold fast to what was true before and we miss what God is saying is true right now. So you might be compromising your convictions and continuing to move forward this way. So maybe you start, silencing your own voice to maintain peace, or maybe you start shrinking to fit what God is telling you that you've grown out of, let's say, or maybe you're starting to question things or submit to the treatment that you're experiencing as if that's your identity. Problems. Okay, that's compromise. Or, the burden lifted, the burden of the assignment, the mission. It could be that. I had a burden, though, not just for that, because I don't feel like that shifted at all, actually. The mission, the message, none of that shifted. But the burden of this being the right family, the right creative family, that lifted. I was like, they are not. They are demonstrating what you should say, like Christian politeness. They are demonstrating kind of like a formulaic process where there's no collaboration with the author at all, really. They're just, taking steps, and they're focused on some goals that are not aligned at all. So this isn't a kingdom alignment where they understand who the author is, the mantle that's on their life, what they carry, the importance of this message, where this message needs to go. None of that was happening. But this was Christian politeness. It was just like, this is what we say in words, and this is how we're professional, and this is how we keep our side of the fence clean. It was very polite, but it was not aligned. And that was becoming abundantly clear. So that burden to be connected or move in the conviction that this was family lifted. It lifted. Okay. So God might also start showing you the exit even when you don't want it. So God had, as I was praying for him to show up as the God that fully backs and supports his girl, other developments sought me out. And I thought, well, this is interesting. So there was things that he was bringing into my experience to let me know, this is the momentum. This is what I want you to move forward on. This is how I want you to carry yourself. Because even if they can't see you, watch me send somebody already that can see you. Watch me do it. Okay, so he might start showing you an exit. So dreams might shift. There might be a people exit. There might be an opportunity drying up. He might change the process of the mission, not the promise. Okay, so there might be a dream shift, like a shift of how that dream comes to pass that doesn't match what you had in mind. And in prayer, he keeps highlighting a release. As much as you don't want it, he might be highlighting that. So he doesn't always give you the next step before asking you to leave the last one. And I think that's really where we get stuck, because we want to stay until it's abundantly clear. And he's like, no. I've made what needs to be clear to you abundantly clear. And I need you to listen to what I've made abundantly clear. You don't need the step, right? He was telling me to go. And he's been unpacking go with me for a minute. Like he's given me the mandate, courage, go, among others. But one of them is that. And we have Courage Co., of course. And so we've won a significant legal battle behind the scenes about Courage Co. recently. And he's just given us a word to go. And so he's highlighting and unpacking for us where we need to go. But I didn't know that it would be a literal, I need you to go from this place as well, like come out from among them. And I didn't know that that was going to be a go. And that took a lot of courage to go and do that, right? Genesis 12:1 says, now in Haran, or Haran, the Lord had said to Abram, go away from your country to the land I'll show you. It's not the first time the Lord's asked me to do that. But he was essentially doing that, right? Like, I'll show you. And you're like, you want to show me now? When would now, Lord, be a good time to show me where we're going? And he's like, no, I showed you what you need to do. And I need you to just trust me that I know what happens next. You don't need to know that yet. Really hard to do, y'all. So what does finishing well actually look like when you know that you need to leave, release, go? Okay. We've got some examples. Jesus on the cross, John 19:30. It is finished. So he didn't just die well. He finished his assignment. That's what that was saying. That's what that was conveying. Paul in 2 Timothy 4:7, he says, I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith, right? He contended for the faith. Big time. And he kept the faith the whole time when most people would give up the first instance. He kept the faith. So he stayed until God said done, not until it got hard. Naomi in Ruth 1, she left Moab in mourning, but it set up Ruth's destiny and ultimately the lineage of Jesus. So, for example, with this book, here's what I know. This is not a book. Like in physical form, sure, but it is a mission, it is a mandate, it is a command. That's what this is. And it's not connected to just me. It's connected to every single person that I'm connected to and that we're going to touch. And there's so much more that's invested in this, but the main thing is people and the movement that this thing is creating, right? That's what this is. And to just call it a book would be grossly mishandling what it actually is. So here's some practical examples. You submit a resignation letter with honor, no slander and no shade. You don't have to leave with slander and shade to leave well. You don't have to. You don't have to air out all your grievances to leave well. You don't have to share any of that. They don't need to know that. They just need to know what you're doing. Make it plain, but you don't have to air that all out, right? You send a closing letter, not a confrontation. You speak blessing over what was, even if it didn't bless you back. You let go before bitterness sets in. You can leave with peace, even if you don't get closure. God's yes is your release. God's yes is your release, whether it's a job, a contract, a business deal, a relationship. We get closure from the Lord. Okay? So how do you not burn bridges, though? Number one, you have to honor your word. So you've got to finish the project, fulfill the agreement, and leave with integrity. So, for example, up until this point, I had fulfilled all righteousness. I had maintained my integrity. I had walked with excellence. If you looked at any email, any interaction, you would have no idea that this was coming. No idea. Right? And actually, the fault was in their court. Why have I not heard from them for 7 months? What is the updated timeline now? Where is this book going? Like that error is not on me, right? But I didn't lead with that. I didn't even make that my grievance, okay? So honor your word. Finish what was on your side, because then you actually have a compelling argument, an unspoken reason to leave that is justified, but not necessary to even be spoken about. It's just clear that it's not aligned here, because an important project would not be treated this way, quote unquote. Clarify, don't justify. Clarify, don't justify. So you don't need to defend yourself. You just need to be clear about what God is asking. So you don't need clarity from a peanut gallery. You don't need clarity from necessarily like friends, okay, or opinions of man. You need to hear from the Lord. You need to hear from the Lord, because you're going to need the power of the Lord to walk this thing out and steward it well. Choose silence over slander. Zip it up. Zip it up, okay? You don't have to post your pain. You don't have to do that. You don't have to protect your future. God sees and knows all. You only say what is necessary, and you can do that without dishonor. And extend blessing, even when it's hard, even when they were wrong or they were in error. Extend blessing. Why? Because you're not leaving for them, you're leaving for God. And when you bless people, right? Bless them to move in wisdom, in good stewardship, in fruitfulness. The Lord will handle what got mishandled with you when you bless them like that. Because the Lord doesn't bless dysfunction. He doesn't bless misalignment. When you are blessing people, you are truly blessing them. And they could use blessing. So bless them. And also forgive. You can't go into a conversation without forgiveness. Like, I forgive myself for thinking that, for living with this view of family, or even thinking that creative family would feel like this, or that, this is what God's support was supposed to feel like. Right? I received the deliverance and the release of that. And I opened myself up to receive the truth of what God means with those promises. Make sense? Romans 12:18 says, if possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. Live at peace with everybody. We don't slander. We don't defame. We don't have to defend. We don't have to get dramatic. We don't have to get messy. Why? What does that do? That actually only causes greater problems. It burns bridges, okay? And it creates your block now, not your release. And here's what we have to remember. Love doesn't always stay. Love obeys. Love obeys, right? So especially with, churches or businesses or even, friendships and things. Those are not marriages, okay? And those are not family. Indirectly, you might have a church family, but it doesn't replace your family of origin, your actual family, okay? So love says, I won't stay just to be liked. I won't stay just to prove a point. I won't stay because I'm afraid of failing, whatever that might mean. Okay, because obeying God is not failing, for the record. There was a moment actually where the CEO was talking to me and said something like, I'd hate for you to quit before the miracle, right? Like we hear pastors and preachers say things like this. And I was like, well, in my head, I am cracking up because the Lord gives me like my line. And my line is, he doesn't know the difference between quitting and pivoting. And it was the funniest thing. I was like, Lord, oh my God, you're so good. Anyway, that's a great point, though. There's a huge difference between quitting and pivoting. Big difference. I won't betray my calling for comfort. I won't make myself smaller because I fear man. I will rise to the bigness, to the greatness that God is calling me to. I won't dishonor God by maintaining what he's dismantling. Whoo-wee. One person I don't want to be on the wrong side of is the Lord. Okay? Sometimes love looks like staying. Other times love looks like walking away without bitterness so you both can grow. That's a beautiful thing. Right? Even in, let's call it dating. In dating, you are gathering data. That's what you're doing. So do it in such a way that if it's not the data that you need for destiny, then you can walk away. But graciously, that can be a beautiful thing. It got you closer. It provided more data for you. That's a blessing. This person blessed you, even though it didn't turn out to the outcome that you wanted. But we miss that sometimes because we think that only the outcome is valid. Well, what does that say to the whole process? What does that say to the journey that God has had you on and all the different things and the lessons that he's revealed to you and all the wisdom that you've gained? We can't just say that it's only a success if the outcome we had in mind is granted. It's not it. John 6:66 through 68 says, when many disciples left, Jesus didn't beg them to stay. Wow, wow, wow. I've had many people walk away or give a lot of really good lip service, but their actions said it all. And it wasn't worth confronting, addressing, begging, any of that. It was just noted. Noted. I accept. I see. Thank you for helping me see clearly what's happening here. Right? When many disciples left, Jesus didn't beg them to stay. Why? Because they weren't a part of the mission. What would begging do? Get people to stay against their will and then be bitter and resentful the whole time? Hard pass. Hard pass. We're not doing that, right? You need the ones that are divine connections, the ones that the Lord has knit together for such a time as this. You don't need those with divided interests or selfish agendas or ulterior motives, or that genuinely don't want to be there, or that are called somewhere else. Bless them. Don't beg them. He turned to the 12 and asked, do you also want to go? Anyone else? Because we're going somewhere. If you don't want to go, you'll miss this boat, but go to where you want to go. I'm not here to convince you to come anywhere with me. If you want to come, you're invited, but don't be casual about that. Be all the way in. Don't be the lukewarm kind of, or don't be the people that just sit and consume for personal gain, but don't bless back. No, where we're going, this has got to be mutual. This is an all-in mission, not a half-hearted one, right? Different. So love doesn't cling, okay? Love chooses obedience. Love chooses. It doesn't cling, it chooses. It's clear, all right? So here's some things. If you are finding yourself in a situation where this might be deeply resonant for you, You can say this over yourself: I won't stay where God has lifted the grace. I won't burn bridges, I'll build altars. I won't chase closure, I'll follow the cloud. I'll leave well because I trust the one who leads me. We can do things with such gratitude, with such honor, with such blessing, right? I have no regrets because I poured my guts out and I walked in integrity. And I am grateful for every single one of these people. That was the first thing I did in the email, was honor every single person by name, because they deserve that. I'm not coming for a person. I'm coming for a process that was not aligned for what this mission is. That is my responsibility as the leader of this message to do. And it's that part's not on them. I think what makes it hard is I'm a responsible person. So what that means is I don't say yes to things I can't fulfill. I don't agree to things I can't complete. But this was interesting because I did complete my side, but the other side was not upholding what was agreed to. And that would not be healthy to move forward in. And the minute I knew, as uncomfortable as it was, I had to share that. I had to share that. But I didn't have to dishonor, because I don't have any dishonor towards any single person. I don't question who they are as people. I don't question their expertise or the way that they want to publish books. That's none of my business. My business is what was happening in my story, in my customer journey there, and how the Lord was pivoting me. That's what I had to be obedient to. Not to faulty systems or structures, not to a design that God did not design, not to an ego kind of driven thing where I would just have to endure more for what? To fulfill a contract that can be changed? I don't think so. Right? So obeying the Lord was so much more important. Okay. And I just want to offer that to you. Really consider where God might be asking you to pivot. If you are connected to Courage Co, the podcast, any of this mission and the work that we're doing in the world, we're all pivoting right now in some pretty significant ways. We've had pivot on purpose as our word for, or the phrase really for the year. We've got many individual words for the year, but as a phrase for the year, we've really had to learn to pivot. And this is, how do you stay in constant agreement with the Lord, despite what you think, despite what you feel, despite opinions, despite the economy, despite the government, despite forecasts, despite any of that? How do you obey the Lord no matter what and be sold out to that? Man, did he prove that through this lesson. And I hope that this is generously blessing you. It's still one that is going to have so much more goodness as it evolves. So stay tuned. But I just want to give you at least this part of the message, the part that is processed, not tender, right? The part that is just truly a gift to give you, because there's been a release to share it. And it just felt relevant and necessary to somebody on today. So I hope that you are hearing and that you've been blessed by this. And I just want to let you know, I was somebody, in case this is helpful, I was somebody who learned to be silent. There was so much, so many people that had quote unquote bigger problems than me. So many people that needed attention, so many people that needed help and support all around me growing up. And so I learned to be silent, to not get in the way or prevent them from getting the help they needed, not knowing that I needed help. And I didn't even know how to ask for it. I didn't even know what my needs were because the needs around me were so loud. And that became a lifestyle. So I just learned to be quiet. I learned to listen. I learned to observe. I learned to be a practical psychologist. I learned to adapt a lot. And that worked for a long time until it didn't. I would come to realize that there was many opportunities where I did need to speak up, where I did need to say that I'm not okay and that I need help, where I did need to address things that weren't supposed to be tolerated, where I did have to come out of agreement with things that should have never been enabled, where I did have to advocate for myself. And I had no idea how to do it because I'd never seen anybody advocate for me before and defend me, like to like protect physically and also verbally. And I didn't know how to do it. It almost felt like in the moments where I needed to, like I lost my voice box or something, or I just didn't know how to act, so I froze. Okay. And so I know that this is hard for some people to believe at this point, but let this just be a testimony to you of what happens when you start obeying the Lord, that he will activate your voice. And the kingdom of God, we do know, is voice activated. So your voice has to do with authority. Okay, so I felt helpless and powerless and victimized a majority of my life, unfortunately. And I just don't believe that children specifically ever should have to feel how scary that is, or that we have to live with that being our paradigm when God has set us free. What I do know is that you weren't born to be silenced. You were born to speak, to build, and to move mountains with your voice. Truly, whether that's through prayer, intercession, speaking. It's not just for platforms, okay? It's not for podcasts. It's not just for writing books. It's to be the authority in your life that you're designed to be, okay? And what I want to offer you is the Own Your Voice Challenge, okay? In 3 days, I'm going to share what took way more than 3 days to learn, I promise you. And this is activation design to help you break fear, align with heaven, okay? And boldly release what God put inside of you. So if you felt muted, overlooked, or unsure if your voice matters, this challenge is your call to rise. It is time to stop waiting to be chosen and start choosing to speak. Speak up. That's how you start rising up. So what you can do, this is going to be July 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. You can register just by being a part of Courage Co. You get access to it. So you can go to www.courageco.org. You will see it. It has its own session in the left side dashboard. It says Activate Session. So you can join that live and you'll see it in your events tab. So you can RSVP to the days that you can be there. It's going to be really, really good. So get into Courage Co. That's how you can be a part of this and take your place in the story that God is writing through you. It's so important to do. There's so much more to come, but that's what I have to offer you on today. I truly hope that this message blessed you. And until next time, stay blessed. If today's episode encouraged your spirit, share it and leave a review so that other faith walkers can find their way home. And if you're ready for mentorship, activation, and community, join us inside Courage Co. It's just $20 a month to walk with us. You can access it at www.courageco.org.